Welcome back to season 3 of the Go to Masters podcast, where we converse with GTM leaders from some of the fastest growing businesses out there and bring you what they've learned through their experience. Joining us today is Erik Hofstede, VP Revenue and Customer Operations, GoGuardian. Thank you for being here today, Erik. Could you please share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So I probably have an atypical journey to my current role in revenue and customer operations. I actually studied chemical engineering as an undergrad, and I went to work for Clorox, a CPG company, where I was doing wet chemistry and process engineering and household name brands you're probably familiar with, the Hidden Valley Ranch, 409, and even some of our insecticide products. And basically, I found that I wanted to really lead a business versus being kind of in the business, a tenant as part of the commercialization process. So I gradually made my way into trade marketing and then eventually found my way into sales. And after maybe a year or so in sales, I quickly realized that I really had a passion to be a marketer. And so I had an opportunity to go to Intuit, really right at the heart of I'd say the first tech boom, so early 2000s. And it was actually, I was very fortunate because I was able to apply much of what I learned at Clorox as a CPG company to Intuit because 80% of the business at the time was was done through the retail channel, if you will. So 80% of our business was done through retail. So there was a lot of similarities between putting a bottle of bleach in your local supermarket and putting a box of software at a Best Buy, as an example. I started working on the Quicken business, and then I spent seven tax seasons where I spanned a number of marketing roles, and then I eventually found my way into small business. So small business most associated with the QuickBooks ecosystem. And I worked across a number of marketing disciplines, primarily in a traditional PMM type role, but I even led channel teams like the website, QuickBooks.com. And then I moved into a strategy role where I was supporting our US country leader, and an opportunity was presented to me to lead we were calling shared services in support of our sales channels, plural. So effectively, every discipline that enabled the selling organization was housed housed underneath me. So that was everything from sales operations to commissions design and administration, learning and development, professional services, reseller enablement, even channel marketing. And so this was really my first foray into, I guess, what we now call revenue operations. So this was a few years back. That's where I cut my teeth with pipeline management. I mean, these are really the seminal years of adopting pipeline management at Intuit, and in support of a big mid-market bet that we were making. So it was moving from kind of a direct-to-consumer, direct-to-small business sales model or sales motion to a true enterprise sales motion. So I was kind of involved on the ground floor and supported our sellers in that foray. And then I moved back into marketing, and I had a desire to go do more of what I was doing. And an old colleague of mine took the CEO role at GoGuardian, and he's a friend and someone I've stayed in touch with for years since he had left Intuit. And we connected over lunch in San Diego, and one thing led to another, and here I am at GoGuardian. I've been at GoGuardian now for 9 years and leading revenue and customer operations. So basically all of revenue operations, the traditional revenue operations disciplines, in addition to customer support or customer success. GoGuardian, just for those of you who don't know, we have a portfolio of what we call safety and productivity products. So think web filtering, classroom management. So we're in the ed tech vertical. I guess I should have shared that at the outset. To curriculum and instruction, portfolio of curriculum and instruction products as well. So just think about how do we how do we improve the teacher productivity, if you will, and assessment, and so essentially kind of soup to nuts, we're going to improve student outcomes through our various solutions in at GoGuardian. So yeah, it's been a fantastic experience to work with a lot of really smart people, and I'm learning a ton. So I've really enjoyed it to date.
That's atypical for sure. Chemical engineering, sales, marketing, and now operations. You transition from leading various aspects of marketing at Intuit to owning revenue and customer operations at GoGuardian. Tell us a bit about the big differences, plus the similarities, what you learned, and what was required to succeed in the broader GTM leadership role.
Yeah. Yeah, so at Intuit, most of my career was in marketing, and at Intuit, marketing was primarily the accountable for the outcomes we were after. So what that was subscriber growth and top line improvement, really. And so moving to GoGuardian, or even when I was in the shared services role at Intuit, um, I found myself really supporting those that were being held accountable for delivering those outcomes. So I remind my team and the entire selling organization all the time that, hey, our accountability is your success. So we're in service to your success. So the remits were very different, but I found that, like, the breadth of experiences that I had, that in the world of RevOps, because you're touching so much, that I was able to have some success pretty quickly, just because you've developed that acumen with time. I think the other big difference is, sales in enterprise, in an enterprise motion, is obviously a very, very critical from a world of transacting online through a website. So that was a very, 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 very big difference as far as where we derived our revenue. I'd say, what I learned is just having a desire to learn, a willingness to learn, being what I call I won't personify myself as a corporate athlete, but I liked this idea of being nimble, being able to be thrown at different problems, and figuring them out, and and finding some success. Um, the other big, we were a leadership factory at Intuit, so I was able to apply a lot of what I had learned at Intuit to GoGuardian, but that was a big difference, just the level of evolution, from a $200+ billion market cap company to a couple $100 million in ARR. And really, like, great people in both places. So but some of the other things, obviously, learned a lot about Salesforce. We were not a big, we were becoming a Salesforce shop at Intuit, as we were, like I said, moving into the mid-market initiative, but clearly far more evolved, but a lot of opportunity at GoGuardian. I've hired, a great leader there, and I've learned a ton from her, just about the tech stack, how to ensure fidelity in our systems. She's taught me a ton. So those were really the big differences, but I found that, like, just leadership in general is very transferable, and a willingness to learn has been very helpful in helping me make that transition.
You mentioned about dealing with different things. It's all about putting off a lot of fire that's already burning. You oversee everything from deal desk and commissions to pipeline management, forecasting to customer support. How do you prioritize where to go deep as a RevOps leader without getting pulled into operational noise?
Well, I like to start every year with some kind of operating plan. That could be as simple as a plan on a page. So, a strategy document with our objectives, and these are the underlying tenets that are going to help us get there, and then the tactics to support those tenets, as kind of a guiding light, if you will. I then moved to writing actual narratives, inspired by Amazon, where you might write, 10 to 20 pages is exactly what you're going to do. to even, Google Sheets with a series of tabs, just to be very clear on what are the critical priorities that are going to help us deliver our success. And most importantly, do those priorities ladder to our company business objectives? And so always being certain and testing, like, are the things we do, are the things that we're focusing our time on in service to those company objectives? Um, I would say that, another practice that I've used is also, at the outset every month, put something on my calendar where I'll spend 15 to 30 minutes, like, re-looking at my priorities. Like, is this still where I want to be spending my time? Um, the, but and then of course, like, coaching your teams and managing those priorities. I found that, like, when it's written down, it gets done. And so, we're always looking, like, when I get my team together, we're always going back and looking at our collective priorities. Are those still the right ones? How are we doing against those? So there's an element of just bringing rigor to how you run your organization and ensuring that you're making progress against those priorities that you all collectively agreed to at the outset of the year. And then at the end of the year, ideally, you're looking back and you had, you met your objectives, you had some successes, and you can say that, hey, like, we were right at the outset of the year and we stayed focused, and that was how we delivered our business. That said, as you know, things change. Things are always changing, and particularly in our space this year. I mean, we have a new administration. There was a series of tariffs I know everyone's familiar with. That certainly pulled forward a lot of hardware purchasing. We had, a dismantling of the Department of Education that infused a lot of uncertainty in our space or in our vertical. Just over the weekend, there was the administration released $7 billion of the remainder of $7 billion in funding. So there are these, like, structural realities that we're faced with, that we may have to pivot said priorities. So the point is, it's like, yeah, it's great to start out with a plan, but you also have to be somewhat, you have to allow for some edits of that plan to absorb the realities of the day-to-day business. But yeah, our priorities should be core in service to our business, to our customers, and to our people, and those are always very durable.
Can you share some anecdotes around leadership that have helped you succeed as a business leader over your career? And of course, a rich experience. Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, sure. I alluded to this idea of, like, Intuit's long prided itself as a leadership factory. Now Rich, who, like I said, a former colleague of mine who's now leading GoGuardian, is bringing infusing that into GoGuardian. But I'd say, like, I learned a lot from former CEO Brad Smith. We had what we called the leadership success profile, which I think works for uh, it transforms time, if you will. I think it's so simple, and it's a model that I continue to use. And that's, one is think strategically. Two is build strong teams. Three is drive for results. Four, inspire for action. So your teams, and how do you keep them motivated? And then five is innovating for impact. So I take that framework as a kind of my model for leadership, and that's what I use every day, and just hold myself to account to that particular model. I also like this idea, we talk about it at GoGuardian on occasion, is this idea of, like, working on the business versus working in the business. On the business, like, hey, there's some things that I can fundamentally do to transform what we do today, versus in the business, which is, like, incremental optimizations, or just, like, turning the dials, if you will. I see so many opportunities at GoGuardian, whether it's from we're radically improving, like, how we commercialize our innovation, how we measure productivity of our sellers, completely investing in our Salesforce instance. There's just so much work at aligning our learning and development, or our sales enablement, to outcomes, so we can actually say, hey, this curriculum is going to drive improved outcomes from our sellers. So there's a lot of what I would call, like, working on the business to improve the trajectory of GoGuardian's growth rates.
I have a question on AI as well. With AI transforming GTM and support functions, where do you see it's making the biggest operational impact across revenue and customer teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'd say we're getting started at GoGuardian. I'd say what where we are, I would say we are very far along with our products. I mean, our product leadership is best in class, and therefore our products are best in class. And you see it in our net promoter scores and our share of the category. But yes, there's still opportunity in our space in both revenue operations as well as customer operations and success. Where I'm using it most regularly today is in our forecasting tools. So looking at how we're projecting, say, the balance of the year and the different compositions of our business, and butting that up against what our sellers may call as committed and best case in Salesforce. We're using it a lot in my enablement team. That's everything from just ease of moving through call coaching and call monitoring, if you will, to now we're creating like in-house interactive ability to to monitor and coach against sellers' conversations that they're having with our customers every day. So I'm really excited about that. I think there's some work that we can do on how in the customer success space, like how do we best do it yourself onboard customers. So we're applying some AI there as well. So there we are still kind of at the threshold of what I see as nothing but opportunity. So I'm excited about how we're starting to leverage AI. I'm inspired every day by how our product teams have already used it and are just delighting our customers with our products and the AI that's native to those products. So big opportunity, kind of just getting started and excited about what's to come.
Just getting started. You helped lead many businesses at Intuit and now run revenue operations at scale. What's one strategic play you're proud of that really moved the needle?
Yeah, one little anecdote was I was working on, and I think it's a good one because it has elements of it's business leadership, but it has elements of revenue operations. Um, and actually, it's actually arguably directly applied the LSP, the leadership success profile that I shared earlier. But this was I was working on an enterprise desktop business, QuickBooks Enterprise. It was arguably our pro or premier product on steroids, if you will, and we were targeting the mid market space. This was kind of the very early days of going after that space, and the insight was that we were. Customers were outgrowing QuickBooks, and so they were going to these larger competitors like an Intact or a NetSuite, and so we were kind of working autonomously, and we had say lots of flexibility in what we wanted to do with this business, and while we were taking incremental pricing and kind of just managing to like a mid to high single digits growth rate, we said, hey, why wouldn't we take this business to take this business to a subscription, so even more predictable. And there was a lot of lots of folks that were very reluctant, but we looked at our competitors and we said, hey, we are already they are priced at a premium to us. They are all subscription businesses. We are not a subscription business. We looked at, this is a funny little anecdote, is we're looking at like the G&A of these larger small businesses, and we used to joke that like they're spending more on paper towels annually than they are on this product that's like the central nervous system, if you will, of their business. And so anyway, we made the bold move to launch this subscription business, which was like I said, fundamentally different certainly for our installed base. And we used to sit every Friday. There was every Friday a group of us, the business leaders, would sit every Friday, and we'd call down to Tucson, Arizona, where we had our call center, and we'd have like a round table with our sellers. Hey, what'd you learn today? What's different than what you heard? What's different that you heard today that you did earlier in the week? And so we would talk about that, and then we'd say, okay, this is what we want to do next week. So we were constantly learning, pivoting, changing our communication. I mean, you had a group of marketers, product managers, our strategy leader, my GM, all of us in there, and we took that business, like fundamentally changed the business model. We had infused some talent, some new talent in there, and after 3 years, we tripled the business. And I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars that as a result of just having a bold vision based on insight. Insight being both like, how do I really understand my customer and their willingness to pay, coupled with what's the competitive set look like, and then really putting rigor around the process, staying connected, learning, being willing to make pivots, and yeah, we had it was a true cross-functional success. When I think about RevOps, to bring this back to RevOps, you're in the middle of everything, and so in a sense, even though I was a marketer and a PM at the time, I felt like I was playing a RevOps type role because I was pulling like effectively the glue, bringing this group together, where we would collectively learn, make potentially change course, make pivots, make edits to our go-to-market. And like I said, we had a ton of success, and it was a cross-functional effort that I'm very proud of and will never forget.
Challenging the status quo and also keeping the feedback loop strong along with stakeholder management. That's fantastic, Erik. RevOps sits at the center of sales, marketing, and CS, like you mentioned. What have you learned about driving true cross-functional alignment that sticks?
Yeah. A good little example is just, I touched on this briefly, was just we're constantly innovating. It's the level of innovation at GoGuardian is just, it's mind blowing, and so we're constantly shipping new products, not just releases, but frankly new products in the space. So it's expanding our portfolio. But I found that like while we're moving with speed and urgency to ship new products, we don't necessarily have like a structured commercialization process. So I've been talking a lot about this, over the last couple of weeks with folks in the organization. And so there's simple things we can do is just get really clear on like, what do we know that needs to happen by discipline, and start to manage to that through mission teams. And so that's really driven the alignment. One, it's bringing the teams together. Two, it's getting clarity as to like what fundamentally needs to happen this week. And again, it's all in service to a date that we aspire to deliver against. So that's one example of where I feel like we're making good progress. We have a long way to go. But that's where I've played a big role in just like bringing that together, because that's frankly what I'm used to. I'd say, the other thing that I lead at GoGuardian is our weekly business review, which is another great opportunity to bring our leadership team all the way through our sellers and some of our other executives to really like look at the business. How's it performing versus our targets? And I find in that meeting, it's a great opportunity to where we may have a gap, like we then rally around that gap, we action that gap, and then we hold folks accountable. So next week when we come in, we want to know, well, was that addressed? Did we see the improvement we were after? There's simple things like, we just making sure that you're bringing your teams together. Like I said earlier, just that how are we doing against our priorities? So not making that like a one-time thing where, hey, here's our operating plan, and then it kind of gets shelved and you don't look at it again until the end of the year. Like that's a living, breathing document. So I'd say that's another area where it's used to drive real cross-functional alignment. Yeah, I mean, I could go on. I have so many stories, but I don't want to belabor your question because you may have others.
Stakeholder management is crucial. Three key pieces of advice you would like to share with the listeners who aspire to excel in the field of revenue operations, Erik.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good one. Again, you know, challenge yourself to get uncomfortable, I guess is where I'd start. Um, I was a scientist at the outset of my, doing, like I said, doing wet chemistry and then eventually, putting 5,000 gallon mix tanks in manufacturing facilities. So that's very different from what I'm doing today. And of course, I made steps along the way that eventually allowed me to get to where I'm at. But I think there's just like, keep in mind that like do different stuff. Like continue to challenge yourself to do something different. Don't get stagnant in a particular role. Learning's fun. And when you're not having fun, I think everybody knows that like it's important to have fun because this is what we're doing every day. So you have fun by learning, and you develop those breadth of experiences by doing that. I'd say like some more tactical things. Um, get in the tools that you're using. Like I said, I was very much I'm still very much an amateur in the CRM space, but I get in and I play with it, and I have the experts teach me things. I want to learn myself and like feel it, uh, you know, viscerally. Like, what is this like for our sellers? I'll do seller, what I call seller follow me homes, where I can sit with sellers. I did this at Intuit as well. Sit with sellers and like, what's their experience as a seller? Where are we falling down as an organization in support of them? So that's a great way to see like, like we have to go fix X, Y, and Z. I'd say, invest in your network, because your network allows you to get these new experiences, go try different things, build your breadth of experiences. And it's also, it's great to have, leverage your network even for onboarding like new folks, because it accelerates their time to value, if you will. And yeah, also getting outside perspective. You can tap your networks to, like, hey, I have RevOps folks that I've worked with historically that are in RevOps roles. I can reach out to them. I have this problem. How would you solve this? So that's what I'd say. Get uncomfortable. Get into the work, and more importantly, get into the work that affects your constituent, that group that you're there to serve. And then, build that network, cultivate that network, leverage that network. Like I said, you continue to learn from, inside externally, and also help your new folks quickly accelerate in having successes at their, in the organization.
Well, that brings us to the end of this insightful episode of Go to Masters. Big thanks to Erik for sharing his experiences and valuable insights. Remember, you can tune in every week to learn more from game changers driving hypergrowth companies across the globe. Go to Masters is brought to you by Everstage, your trusted partner for transforming the way businesses handle sales commissions. I'm your host, signing off.